Hi, I'm Stephanie Ip with Post Media News, and I'm here with Jordan Connor and Drew Ray Tanner of Riverdale. They play Sweet Pea and Fangs Fogarty of the Southside Serpents, and they're going to chat a little bit about this insane season and what projects they've got coming up next, and a whole host of other questions. So, just to start off, holy smokes, did you know the season was going to turn out the way it is right now?
No way at all.
No,
Yeah.
not at all. I don't think so. I think for the both of us, we sort of had the foresight for a few episodes, but we didn't know that it would turn out this way.
Or culminate to this, yeah. And I didn't think either of us knew that the Serpents were going to be this big of a player in the way that the season turned out either. Yeah.
So let's rewind a little bit. Riverdale itself has become a bit of a cultural phenomenon. I mean, there are fan conventions everywhere, and people are just obsessed with it. You didn't know the season was going to turn out this way. You didn't know the Serpents were going to have this big of a role. Did you know that Riverdale itself was going to become what it has when you first booked this way back?
Well, for me, I remember getting the script back in 2015 when it was like really just being conceptualized at that time, and it had a bit of a different direction at the time. And yeah, it was a bit of an interesting concept, turning the Archie comics into a TV series. They'd already done it before, where they turned it into a movie, and I remember watching that and feeling like they'd missed the mark, and was just hopeful that they didn't do that with this show. Then when it finally came out, you kind of really saw the way that Roberto had envisioned it and the style that it was being shot in, and something very nostalgic yet new about it that I think everyone resonates with. So for the younger generation, and then also for the older generation, I think everyone kind of sees something that they like, and that's what I think they did so well, and I think that's why it's doing so great. So
Yeah, I mean, for me, I didn't see the script. I hadn't auditioned for the show until season 2 came around, and by that point, it was already huge. I mean, season 1 had done so well, and I think they told they told like a murder mystery story in a very interesting way using the Archie comic characters, and I think that's a testament to Roberto as well for his vision and where he saw the show going. And I think from that point, from auditioning for season 2, he already knew that the show was this huge hit, because all over the world, like nostalgic Americana from like the 1950s is this very romantic thing that like people all over the world kind of love.
Now, having seen how things have played out, seeing the Serpents kind of come into their own on screen, seeing your own characters really develop storylines and really step forward. What's that like, being able to play that character that, maybe when you signed on, it was just you're a Southside Serpent, and now really being able to lean into these really developed characters and storylines?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think when I auditioned for Sweet Pea, the description of the character was a dark version of Jughead that had made all the wrong choices in life, kind of thing, and that was kind of the direction it was going. When I booked the role and kind of working on it, I realized that this wasn't really necessarily just this kind of because the way the Serpents were portrayed maybe in season 1, where that they were this group of miscreants and violent people that weren't to be tussled with. And I think with season 2 coming around, the audience gets to dive in a little more into the situation of the characters. And I think taking that dark side of Jughead, and instead of more making wrong choices, it's more the product of a circumstance, and the circumstances that Sweet Pea was in growing up led him to do the things he did versus what Jughead's circumstances were per se, and it makes you care for the characters a little more.
What about Finks? Because he's got a little bit of a softer side to him. We're seeing the last couple.
Who said that? Who talking about? Yeah.
He's never been in a fight.
Yeah, wasn't there for certain.
Okay, I just gotta say, like the Carrie episode though, like there's a lot of emotion coming from Fangs there, like
right.
Working.
Yeah, so it's interesting. Like, so for me, in terms of developing that character, you always have to approach it with a certain level of compassion for the person's situation. And so when I approached the Carrie musical episode, the fact that he was there for that production was sort of a testament to the only way that I could understand why somebody from like a street gang would be in that same room is that deep down that's something he's always wanted to do, but had never had the opportunity given the side of the tracks that he grew up on. So that's a safe place, and it kind of brought me back to when I went to the theater in high school, growing up where I grew up, and just feeling like you're at home with people that understand you. So I just tapped into that with Fangs and just sort of said, this is a safe place for him. He's going to be able to do what he wants, be who he wants to be, and have fun. And that's where I made all those choices and kind of went that way with him, and did discover the softer side. And I think that it balances out the group a bit as well. I think we all sort of discovered our identities, and Jordan's character is like the big brother to us, and Tony is like, she's like our mascot in a way, and she's like a bit of a leader in her own sense. And then Cole is Jughead's the guy that's coming he's the newcomer into the group, but ends up assuming the leadership role as well and becomes our brother in arms. So there's a good way to balance everything. If there's too much, I think if we all played it one way, then it wouldn't have worked as well. So. Yeah.
So speaking of your own high school experiences, a lot of people don't realize that you're both BC boys and have grown up around here. What was your high school experience like, and was it anything at all like Riverdale High?
I guess I'll start. I mean, for me, no. Growing up, I was a bit of like, I did some questionable things as a kid, and I mean, as we all do, we do some crazy stuff. Coming out of high school, I was playing football. I was into sports. I was into theater, and I think it was really acting and like the theater program at my high school that I have to like attest to me coming out of maybe becoming not such a good person in life, and it was football that gave me like the determination and the work ethic to pursue my dreams and kind of stuff like that. So in some ways I'd say I was like Sweepy, and in a lot of other ways, no, not at all. And I don't think the drama that happens in Riverdale ever happened in my high school.
Yeah. I sort of, it's funny when you start, playing a character in a high school show, you start to remember and start to think back and draw from all your high school experiences. So for me, I'm starting to remember a lot of stuff that I find parallels between the show and my real life. And so I think that's kind of what the show, in terms of, is it like high school? I think if you took every highlight and every heartbreaking moment from high school and showcased it on a weekly basis, I think it's very spot on. They touch base on a lot of stuff on that show. They don't ever always just focus on the football players. They don't always just focus on this and that. And I think that's kind of how, when I look back at high school, I remember doing stupid stuff. I remember, getting caught up in the local gangs. I remember playing football. I remember joining the theater for the first time. I remember leaving my old high school from my hometown for a better opportunity and being the new kid in school. I remember all of those things. So for me, if I look back on it now, I think if I had just gotten out of high school, I probably would be like, nah, it's not like that. But being able to look back at it as a very much like a lookbook of all these amazing moments, that's to me what Riverdale is, every week.
Any shout outs to old high schools?
Aldergrove, ACSS, what's up? I'm talking to you, Mr. McLaughlin, my high school teacher there, and WJ Moe in Abbotsford. I went there for the final 3 years, and they have a wonderful theater program, Mr. Edwards. Shout out to you. He cast me in my final theater performance, which made me want to continue to pursue this. So, yeah, big shout out there.
I didn't go to high school. No, right. No, shout out to Sands Secondary School, because that's where I went from 8th grade to 12th grade. I graduated from there, and big shout out to Mrs. Vincent, Annette Vincent. She was my drama teacher since 8th grade, and I think my first class ever in 8th grade, because you have electives and it's in blocks, and my first block of high school ever was drama class. And I remember walking into it was like this little tiny black box behind the cafeteria, because they didn't even have a theater at the time. And I just remember walking in there, and I was like, this is where I belong. And I think Mrs. Vincent was definitely a proponent in me pursuing acting to this day. And I think like good acting teachers, good teachers in general from a young age really help that. So Sands Secondary, Mrs. Vincent, thank you.
My high school beat his high school in football, just so everyone can know that. real quick. Jordan's a year older than me, but we played. And we
But he never
kicked
played.
Sam's
He
butt.
He never played.
I
He sat on the
never.
bench.
I was a year old. He was a year younger.
He sat on the bench.
I was backing up a future NFL player.
He was
What can
a
I
vixen,
say?
right?
I was a vixen. No. But it's funny actually the fact that me and him played football against each other.
Yeah, we
was
played football
hilarious.
against each other in
Yeah.
high school, which is
So
pretty crazy.
pretty funny.
So did you know each other in high school though, or
Nope.
you met later on?
No.
Later on,
We we didn't even. I mean, we kind of would see each other in audition rooms over the past
Yeah.
maybe couple years. We'd see each other, and it's funny because it would always be like either Drew got it or I got it, and then when I found out, because Drew came on Riverdale an episode later than I did, and when I found out that he was going to be on the show, I was pretty elated because I always respected him, and
Yeah.
every time I saw him in the room, I knew that he was a good guy, and so I walked up to his trailer and I knocked on the door, and I was like, "Hey man, welcome to the show," and super excited to work with you, kind of thing.
Yeah, one thing about Vancouver that a lot of people don't know as young actors is when you start out, you have this perception, like living up here above Hollywood, you have this perception of what you think the industry is. And for a lot of years, for a lot of people, you don't make a lot of friends for some weird reason in those audition rooms. You
Yeah.
go in there and it's so serious, no one's talking, no one's doing anything, and like rightfully so, everyone's trying to
People
make
are
it.
focusing, or
People are focusing,
yeah.
and yeah, sorry about that. People are focusing, and you don't want to, get in their headspace or whatever. But it's just surprising to me that it takes that long of a time to kind of start to cultivate relationships and realize that like we're not enemies, like we're friends also. And for Jordan, I kind of had always gotten the vibe that I don't know, he just seemed more like my kind of person, and then now upon like knowing him more, I start to see so many parallels. Like we played football together, and we went, we pursued university football, and then like dropped out of it to do this. And I think that if more actors kind of took the time to do that, I think they would find more friendships, and I think the community should be bigger in our city. That's just my opinion.
So then the two of you kind of came up through the ranks, kind of in the same audition rooms. You're friends now. How does that translate onto a show like Riverdale, where you are portraying people that are super close knit, the Serpents, and then you've got the Riverdale Bulldogs, and they've got their own thing going on. Do the Serpent actors and the Bulldog actors become friends as well, or
In the show or like, outside of the show?
outside of
Outside
the
of the
show?
show.
Like,
Yeah.
what's
definitely.
friendships like on set there and
set,
interacting with the
great.
cast? Because it's quite a young cast.
Yeah,
It is.
No, everybody is super nice and really easygoing, easy to get along with. I mean, there's at no time is there like sectioned off groups of like the Serpents aren't sitting there eating lunch versus
Yeah,
the
yeah,
Bulldogs.
yeah.
Everyone's sitting together, everyone's friends, everyone gets along, and it really is like and I'm not going to say an anomaly, but it is very rare that you find a show where everybody is just so happy to be there. There's nobody's egos involved. Everyone is just happy and enjoys everyone's company, and everybody's friends. Nobody fights with each other, or nobody doesn't get along with each other. Everyone's there and to have fun and have a good time and create a great show together, kind of thing. So
Yeah, I think it leaves the door open for like leaving better stuff on screen by being closer knit like that. And so yeah, like for a lot of scenes we're going head to head with the Bulldogs, and we got to be putting a serious face on. We got to be going real hard. But
between takes, we're laughing.
most of the time we're cracking up. Like I can't believe you were like mean mugging like this.
Or like KJ will be on the other side just trying to make us laugh. Like on our coverage, he's just trying to make us laugh the whole time. So.
It's a young cast, and for a lot of us, like this is sort of our one of our bigger milestones in our careers. And I think also a great thing that has really helped the show is having the parents in the show,
The veterans.
Yeah, Ski, Machin, all those characters who have done this. Luke and all those guys. They've done this already, and they've really like not passed the baton on to us, but really showed us the right way to do it and the right etiquette, and they're so welcoming too. And I think it creates that just a good atmosphere for that. So you've got a bunch of young bucks that have never done this before and are just learning, and then you have people that have been there. And a lot of shows, it's not like that. You don't get that liberty. So pretty lucky.
Tell me a little bit more about that, because you're right. It's so rare for a young actor to land a show that has exploded the way that Riverdale has, to be around veterans who've done this for decades, and to be they're kind of legends, from their time in the business, and just to be, especially for you two, to be able to do this in your own backyard, your friends and family are still close. You don't have to be away from them for an entire season or anything like that. Tell me a little bit about that experience.
Yeah, I think it was a bit of a daunting experience at the beginning. Like, you come onto the show that has so much praise and so much of a following, and you don't really know how you're gonna fit into that group, and you don't really know how the set's gonna be. You know, like, because every time as an actor you go into a set, it's gonna be a different experience, and you kind of have to brace yourself for whatever comes and be open and fluid to however things work. Because a lot of times as Vancouver actors, we come on as day players for one episode or two episodes, and we just kind of got to fit in and go with the flow. So coming onto Riverdale, it was definitely a different experience in regards to how we were treated as actors. I think coming in and having everyone welcome you so easily and be willing to give you advice or work on the scenes with you, and you feeling a part of the crew and the cast just immediately really helped just kind of loosen you up and make you feel comfortable enough to make bold choices and do things the way you would do if you were a part of the main cast from the beginning, kind of thing. So so to come into the family like that is a little daunting. That has been already working for one season, but they invited us in so graciously, and it's just been nothing but incredible.
It's true. Yeah, I think it's funny. I think a lot of people also too make the assumption that because these actors that come from, you know, other parts of the world, and that they come to the show to work, that they assume that they're not in a city that they're not familiar with, you know. And I think for me and Jordan, working in our own backyard, I think it was a great opportunity for us to just be like, yeah, like, you're new in the city, like, let's show you around, let's go to these places that we know, and I think that gave us that opportunity. But I feel like a lot of people are afraid to kind of take that initiative, because you just assume that they're okay. But I mean, if you've spent any time alone in a city, you know what that's like. So, you know, working in the backyard has been sort of to our advantage in that sense, because this is our hometown, and, you know, we know where to go and where not to go, and, you know, so there's a lot of good things there. And to have our families here and to have that as a support system is also a very good thing. You know, I get to talk to my mom and see her at least once a week and discuss all this with her, and yeah, that's a good thing to have.
Yeah, I think another part of that definitely is just being recognized now in the street in your own town.
Yeah.
Like I'll go to Kitts Beach, or I'll go to the cafe beside my apartment, and before the show it would just be like a regular day, and now I'll go in and the cashier will have like a little mini panic attack. And I'm like, I've lived here for 3 years, and you've known me for this long. Like, now you're freaking out, which is kind of an interesting thing to just be recognized in your own town. And it is really big here. It happens more here than I think anywhere else, just because the show is shot here. And then there's all this hype around seeing the cast around town. And so that's been a definite change, is just seeing how, not seeing how people treat you, but just seeing the reaction to people recognizing you on the street, which I didn't think would happen. And I think kind of everyone on the show and like in the crew had kind of told me, you know, like, your life's kind of going to change after the show. And me and Drew were kind of just like, nah,
we've done this before.
We're like, we've worked on a show, and you're like, oh, this is going to be the one. This is going to be the thing that changes, and nothing really happens.
Yeah.
But then this show came along, and I think as soon as like a few of our episodes aired, it was pretty immediate that.
I don't know if it was some sort of weird force of fate or something like that, but my very first day, this happened actually twice to me, but my very first day coming to set, I was getting ready for my very first scene, and I'm from Aldergrove, so I grew up out in the valley. I haven't spent a ton of time in the city, mostly just for auditions and stuff like that. And I was still living out in Aldergrove when this had happened. And I was down in the city. I was trying to find a circus where like all our trailers are and stuff. And I was driving down the street, and I was in one lane, and then I saw the street that I needed to turn down. And so I crossed over. I didn't signal, didn't do that. I went down the street. Next thing you know, boop, boop. Cop pulls me over. He's like, comes up, and I'm like, and I can see my trailer. Like, I can see it. I'm like that close, I can see it. And he comes up to the window, and he's just like, man, like, what were you doing?
You just cut him off, didn't you?
I just cut him off. I cut this
off
police
with-
officer. And he's like, what were you doing? And I was like, I'm so sorry, sir. Like, I just, it's my first day at work. I'm not really from around here. And I was just trying to find where I was going. And I made a stupid mistake. And he's like, let me see your license and registration. And he saw where I had lived. And he's like, okay, yeah. He's like, well, what do you do for work? So, well, actually, I'm an actor. This is my first day on this new production. And he said, what's the show? I said, Riverdale. And he's like, oh. He's like, I love that show. He's like, I watch it with my daughter. And he's like, be safe, gives me back my license and my registration and gave me a warning and let me go. And it was like, so for like, in terms of, working in your own backyard, I felt like he was kind of rooting for me in a sense.
Thank you, teen girl who loves Riverdale.
Yeah,
as a cop.
Thank that guy. I just was like so amazed. And so that was like that's when I sort of realized, I was like, this show doesn't just reach to teenagers. Like it's on a bigger
universal.
scale. A lot of people know about it. And that's when I became aware. I was like, that's never happened. Okay, cool. Yeah.
Okay, so what can you tell? The finale's coming up next week.
Yes.
What can you tell us about the finale and next season without giving away too much or getting in trouble?
What do we say?
So for the finale, you're going to see something tragic happen to one of the characters. Something very tragic is going to happen. So who knows how people are going to react. Roberto's already sort of teasing it right now. So you're going to see that play out over the next, episodes. And sort of that'll be that character's own journey. But I think most of the focus is going to be centered around that leading into season 3.
Safe to say we'll see more serpents in season 3.
You will see more
back in season
serpents,
3.
and also a teaser is that you will see someone else. You'll see a new serpent, and you won't see it coming, and you'll be surprised.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with Post Media. Is there anything else that you feel like viewers or fans should know about Riverdale, or that you want to let them know about either the finale or season 3, or just if they see you around town, you're not scary like serpents, don't freak out?
Yeah, 100%. If you see us around town, come say hi. I'd love to chat with you guys about the show. And for season 3, things are just going to keep on getting better and better. I think what's interesting about TV shows is season 1, they establish themselves. Season 2 shows that they can still do it. Season 3, it's a well-oiled machine and things are happening. Possibilities are endless. So I think that's what you're going to see in season 3 is just sort of more of that. And,
and I think overall for the show, something to think about is besides it being kind of this teen drama where all this crazy stuff always happens, just for viewers in general, maybe to take a look at the deeper meaning of what the show represents and kind of the themes and the metaphors that is written into each episode, because there's definitely something deeper there than just your average teen drama. Everything is very relevant to today. So just keep a lookout for that.
And the writers do an amazing job of, using cultural references and even to some of the finer details. So for fans out there, for anyone watching, rewatch an episode and then try to understand like where did this shot come from, or where did this inspiration come from, and then go watch those films. You become more engrossed into the world.
And I'm gonna give you one movie to watch right away. It's a reference from when I throw a trash can through a trophy case. It's a direct reference from Spike Lee's Do the Right Thing. So go check out that movie. It's a very important movie.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for taking that time to chat with us. I'm Stephanie Yip with Post Media News. Jordan Connor, Drew Ray Tanner. Check out Riverdale on the CW and Netflix.
Bye.
See ya.